This over this. What is going on? Okay, I think I fixed it. I think. Maybe not. Okay. What am I doing? I'm sorry. Forgive me. B in the extra credit? Okay. The difference between the square of two numbers. It's a system. So it's a system. Don't worry about it because it's part of later. It's solving a system of linear equations. Which is, I'm sorry?
Both extra credit?
No, the first one, A is no. Yes. The length of a rectangular tennis court is 6 feet longer than twice the width. 6 feet longer than twice the width. So let's call the width how? Okay. So the length is 6 feet longer than twice the width. Length is 2W. That's it. If the court's perimeter is 228 feet, what are the court's dimensions? Okay, can anyone tell us what to do? What to write?
228 equals 2 times 2 W plus 6 plus 2W.
Very good. So the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And you know what I would do first. Can anyone tell me what I should do first? True, but I like to simplify because I like to work with smaller numbers. No, I cannot simplify by W. I can never divide by a variable. Yes. I cannot divide by a variable. I'm solving for the variable, right? So 114 equals W plus 2W plus 6. You don't have to do that. Just distribute. Ignore me. You're allowed to anytime if you want. So just distribute and we're going to get the same answer. So 3W and I subtract 6 from both sides. So W is 108 divided by 3. And that is, if the width is 36 feet, then how much is the length? (72 plus 6, 78). And yes, I have to go back and check. You should always do that. Very good. Anything else? Anything else?
1C, completing the square.
Yes. Let's work on the completing the square. You said 1C.
C.
Very good. In 1C, we have x squared minus 8x plus 10. Good. First step, please. We're asked to complete the square. Yes, we can start with that. That's fine. So we don't get messed up. I think it's a good idea, and not because we may be tempted to combine like terms. I think it's a good idea. I agree. Good. So now what? We divide -8 by 2. What do we get? -4. Now we square -2. I'm sorry, negative 4. It was negative a divided by 2, negative a divided by 2, negative 4. So we square negative 4. What do we get? Good. So then add 16 to both sides. If I forget to add to one side, I mess up the whole thing. You know that? Good. Yes. So the left-hand side becomes
Oh, so the left side is minus 10. Oh,
so the left-hand side.
oh, x minus 4 squared.
Very good. And the right-hand side.
6.
Good. As we know, complete the square alone is not doing a job. Yes, please. Yes. Who was first? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Sorry, can you explain again where the 16 comes from?
The procedure is we have to identify the middle coefficient, which we did, negative 8. Second step is we have to divide negative 8 by 2. And the third step, we have to square that number. And that's how we get 16. Is that okay?
Why are the concept of steps and why do you divide?
Because of our agreement on the first day of classes.
Oh, okay.
A plus b, everything squared, is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared.
Okay.
Yes, Marcus?
Okay, so I assume you move 16 to the right.
No, I have to add 16 to both sides. It's mandatory. I cannot add to one side without adding to the other.
Okay.
An equation is a balance, meaning 5 pounds, 5 pounds, not 5 pounds and 3 pounds. So once I decide to add 16 to one side, I have to add 16 to the other. Other questions? So knowing that complete the square does not solve the equation, what do I have to do next? Yes, take the square root. How many solutions do I expect so I don't forget something crucial? 2. So the left-hand side should be the absolute value instead. Very good. That's why I asked how many solutions so I don't forget plus or minus. And the final simplified form, x equals?
4.
Yes. Yes. The reason I'm asking these questions is, again, not to torture you, but to help you ring the bell. Good. Anything else from here?
Can we do this as
Which one?
the same one as a quadratic formula?
The same one with the quadratic formula? Of course.
Because they gave me this.
So this is the same one? This one? Okay, very good. So we are solving, oops, yellow doesn't work. So x squared minus 8x plus 10 equals 0. X equals. I recommend write the quadratic formula first. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, so you don't make a mistake. And then negative b, 8 plus or minus the square root of,
64.
perfect, minus 4 times a times c over 2a. So far so good? 64 minus 40 is 24. So then I have x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 24. But the square root of 24 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. 2 the square root of 6 divided by 2. Again, I'm pointing out a terrible mistake. If I cross this out with this, unacceptable. Because 2 is not a factor at the top. So what I can do is factor out or split it. One fraction is 8 over 2 plus or minus 2 the square root of 6 over 2, and now I can simplify. And I have to get the same answer as I got before.
You do that last step again, how do you get the 75?
I separate into 2 fractions. 8 over 2 is 4 plus or minus 2 the square root of 6 over 2 simplified to the square root of 6. That I can do. Because I can simplify the fraction by itself because I'm simplifying factors. But in a sum, I'm simplifying portions of a term, and I can't do that. Very good. Next question.
So when it says solve for the equation, can you complete the square and solve, or?
Yeah, that's what we did. We complete the square.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, for other questions where it says just solve for the equation, can you do whatever you want? to
Yes,
solve
if the method is not specified, you're free to do whatever you want. Yes. But here, if you distribute, instead of dividing and taking the square root, then I'll say, oops, the student did not notice that that is the best method for this problem.
Can you go over that?
Yeah, it's exactly what we just did. It's exactly what we just did. So you have to divide both sides and take the square root. Divide both sides by 3 and take the square root. Because if you distribute, it will take you 10 minutes to do it. If you simply divide both sides and you get x plus 4 squared equals 9 and take the square root, it will take you a second. And of course you have to simplify as -4 plus or minus 3. And you have -7 and -1. But if you square and then distribute and move 27 instead equal to 0, use the quadratic formula or try to factor, then I say, uh-oh.
You tell us if we just did the quadratic formula.
If you forget the quadratic formula.
No, if we just did
But why would you do that? It will take you half the test to apply the quadratic formula on this one. You don't want to waste your time. I'm sorry?
I remember the quadratic formula.
But this is one of those 4 methods. Don't forget what you want to say. This is one of the those 4 methods that give you the solution, gives you the solution like this. Yes, Shannon?
Quadratic formula gonna be on the test, or you can memorize that?
Yes, you have to, please.
Okay.
Please. If you solve 5 problems, even if you don't want to memorize it, you will. Just solve 5 problems. So here we have x equals -7 and x equals -1. The -4 minus 3 and then -4 plus 3. Good. Are we getting to the second one or not? Because I'm... Okay. So at least this problem number 3 is clear because we had it on the test, on the classwork. Everyone for coming to class today has 10 points. Okay? Bonus for you.
Did you go over I of the
Finding intervals on which the function is decreasing.
Oh, no, sorry. 1. Wait. Okay, flip page. Back side.
Oh, the L. Find the values of x for which f of x is greater than 0. Yes. Yes. So between this point, or this x value and this x value, it's above. And between this x value and this x value is above. So I will say -3.20 union 0, 3.2. So f is increasing. Oh. No, positive, I'm sorry. So yes, positive for x between -3. Maybe 2, yes, -3.2, comma 0, union 0, 3.2. So for this x and for this x, but not 0, because I don't have the equal symbol. Say it again? Yeah, because the question is f strictly greater than 0. So I cannot say between -3.2 and 3.2 because it will include 0 and I can't have 0. If this were like this, I would have had brackets -3.2, bracket 3.2, everything. No, the question is where is greater than 0?
That means the x value is greater.
No, yes, find the x values for which f of x, y, is strictly greater than 0, which means above the x-axis. Is that clear?
So we need the y value. I mean
The x values for which the y values are greater than 0, positive, above the x-axis. Yep. Good, next question.
Is 7, we didn't go over 7.
7 from here?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's see. No, not yet. This is part of the previous course, but I didn't get to that yet. It's at the end of chapter 2.
We review 8 transformations.
Which one? Number 9 or? Oh, the last problem here?
Yeah.
Yes. 11. Okay, on page 6, let's look at 11. So the problem is f of x equals -2, x minus 2 plus 4. We're asked to find the main range. We're asked to find the x and y intercepts. But mainly the question is asking us to present all transformations in order of operations. Now, I put here 6 coordinate systems. You can put everything on one if you can. If you want to spread them and start with from left to right, that's fine too. It's up to you. Okay? So let's start. Now I'm looking at this function. I don't know why I'm having difficulties with this tonight. Okay, I got it. It covered part of what I'm doing here. Okay, now it's okay. Good. So what is the base function here? Right. Right. So number 1 is the base function and is the absolute value of x. In order of operations, what will be the next step? Yes. In order of operations, I have x minus 2, which means right 2. Awesome. Now the next, no, that's okay. Please say, the next transformation is on number 2. Yes, Risi, go ahead, please.
Now for the test, do we have to write it out, or are we gonna have to like draw it? Or you,
It's up to you. If you
Okay.
decide not,
like, do we just
I would
write it out like this?
I would prefer both.
Okay. So we would have to show each step.
Yes,
Like-
that's why I put on. We can graph them here in a minute.
Okay. Okay.
So the next step,
So we don't, like,
I can do that.
I'm gonna stretch.
Yes, that's my next step. I have to break it up into 2 portions because this is one thing and this is the other. So twice x minus 2 will do what? Vertical stretching by a factor of 2. Number 4 is on number 3. Yes. Reflect with respect to the awesome. Only now. That's the weakest link. I finally got to the weakest link. I can never start with that link. Ever. By the order of operations, I can't do that. That is the last step. So what will you say? What transformation is 5 on 4? Exactly. Awesome. Good. Before we graph all these, we're asked 2 things. The x-intercepts algebraically and the y-intercept algebraically. How do I determine the x-intercepts for any function? What do I have to do? No matter what type of function that is. Awesome, thank you. Y equals 0. -2, the absolute value of x minus 2 plus 4 equals 0. What do I do now? What type of equation is this? Before you answer, read it without, you don't have to you read it out loud. Just read the equation. And then I'm going to ask again, what type is it? And you're not going to say quadratic or linear. I'm sure you're not. Of course, it's an absolute value. Just read it. Right? Is it an absolute value? Okay, first step. Of course. In other words, I have to clean it up. It's not ready for anything. I'm not going to start guessing. Clean it up. What now? Yes. So I have x minus 2 equals 2, and now I know. I put my finger on it and I say, okay, I'm asked to find two numbers whose distance from 0 is 2. What can I have in here? Right. So x minus 2 can be 2, or x minus 2 can be negative 2. What is the first x-intercept? I'm adding 2. And the other one is 0. Yes. So what are the two x-intercepts then?
0.
X is 4. Careful.
4, 0.
4, 0. Right. Is there a reason why I would look for the y-intercept?
No.
I already have it. When x is 0, y is 0. I can have two x-intercepts. It's not going to be a function. Right? Or, let's say you don't notice that. It's fine. Then you have x equals 0 and find f of 0. Let's do it together. 0 minus 2. The absolute value of negative 2. 2 times negative 2. Negative 4 plus 4. We knew the answer.
What if it was 0 and 2?
Then I have to find it. You mean, what do you mean by 0 and 2? If I have here 0 and 2, but that's not the x-intercept. You cannot have 0, 0 comma 2. It's not going to be the x-intercept.
Or 2 and 2. Or negative
But
2.
two,
I'm sorry.
but I can't. That's not going to be the x-intercept. The x-intercept has to have y0. Mandatory. Okay. So now, here's what I do. Okay. I graph the base function. I know how to graph the absolute value. You told me to shift it 2 to the right. Okay, fine. I don't have to be exact. I will be exact at the very end. Because I have the x and y intercepts. Then you told me to stretch it vertically by a factor of 2. I'm stretching it. See, this is much narrower than this.
Well, how would you get the money?
Oh, because I had this point, and then I created this point.
Oh,
It's okay. I'm not going to look at this with a magnifying glass. I promise. Just show me that it's a vertical stretching and I'm fine. Then you told me to reflect. I would rather put the reflection right here because it's easier. Here's why it's easier. I just have to continue it. Instead of putting it on the next coordinate system. So negative 2, x minus 2. And then you're going to say up 4, correct? I'm going to put it right there because it's all ready. So up 4, right here. But now I have the x and y intercepts. Now the graph will be very good because I have 4, 0, and 0, 0. And that's final. I have these values, and of course that. So this is my f of x. Now, can anyone give us the range for this function? And I don't need these three.
negative infinity to 4.
Very good. Yes. So the blue graph from negative infinity till 4. Good. Next question. Is there anything else?
Number,
Yes.
number 10 on the light pink one.
Yes. Number 10. Oh, we have not done this. Not yet. We have not gotten to the equation of the circle. As I said, we shuffled stuff around. Yes.
Average rate of change.
Yes.
Number 9.
Yes. Yes. Very good. So let's look at problem 9. So in number 9, we have f of x equals 3.1, the square root of x plus 19. And I will ask you, please explain how you get this function from the base function. And what is the base function? Before you answer, read it. It is fine. Read it so you know what it says and which is the base function. So what is the base function here? Good. And then what is the first transformation on it?
3.1 to the right. To the left.
I'm not changing. So one more time. So when we change x under the square root, it has to happen. Then I have x plus or x minus. If it's x plus, I go this way. But there is no x plus in there. If there is x minus, then I go this way. There is no x minus. So it cannot be a transformation in x. From the square root of x to 3.1, yes, to 3.1 the square root of x, no transformation in x. So something happens outside. So it must be a transformation in y. If it's plus 3.1, yes, I agree. If it's minus 3.1, yes, I agree. But it's not plus or minus 3.1 in order of operations. I can't even discuss this yet. This is the weakest link. It has to wait for me. I'm not done yet, right? So it's multiplied, and it's outside. So it's not a transformation in x, and it's a product. What can be? Can it be? Yes, a vertical stretching by a factor of 3.1 because the number is greater than 1.
So if it's right, so if it's less than 1.
If it were 1/2 or 0.2, I would have said a horizontal shrinking of the graph. So one more time, base square root of x. No transformation in x. It's 3.1 outside times the square root of x, so it must be a vertical stretching. And after I vertical stretch the graph, then up 19.
So what's the y intersect in
What is the y-intercept? How do I find the y-intercept of any function? What do I have to find? How do I start?
Like, x equals.
Exactly. When you set x equal to 0, you get 19. Is that okay? Good. First question. We already did. According to the model, what is the median height of girls who are 48 months old? So f of x is the median height, x is the age in months. The actual median height for girls, blah, blah, blah. So let's go to the y equals. So in y equals clear, I will put 3.1 times the square root of x, yes. However, I want to put in the function, plus 19. So now what do I plug in? Oh, what is happening here? I'm sorry. Is it okay? Okay. So I put 3.1 times the square root of x plus 19. So now I want second and table. That's not what I meant. Second and table. Second and table. And I want to put in 48. So the height of girls, median height for girls at 48 months of age is, so f of 48 equals 40.477. If the problem is asking how well the actual, yes, I guess so. Good. So Measurement unit, please.
Inches.
Very good. Height. Good. So the actual median height for girls at 48 is 40.2 inches. So actual 40.2 inches. And the question is, describe, how well does the model describe the actual height? Is this a good representation or not so good representation of
It's pretty accurate.
quite good at 48? I have no idea outside of that. I have not checked. So the correct answer would be at x equals 48 months,
0.3, maybe 4.
the function, hold on 1 second, the function, or the model in other words, or model, appears to be quite accurate. Yes, Shelby, go ahead.
Can we use what overestimated like 3.3?
Oh, yeah. So the overestimate, okay. So the overestimate is roughly overestimate approximately 0.3 inches. Part C, use the model to find the average rate of change in inches per month between birth and 10. So average rate between birth and 10 months old. What is the formula for the average rate of change? Yes.
Is x2 minus f equals x1 over x2 minus x1.
We say f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. Awesome. That's true. So in other words, f of 10 minus f of 0 over 10 minus 0. I go back to my calculator and I plug in 0, which I know the answer. I plug in 10. So I copy now, and I have 28.8 minus 19 divided by 10. 0.98. Without measurement unit, I know I cannot get full credit.
Inches per month.
That's it. It's a ratio. Its measurement unit will be a ratio of 2 measurement units. One coming from the top, which is in inches, and one coming from the bottom, which is month. So this is inch per month. Can anyone interpret this? Girls between the ages of 0 months and 10 months, on average, grow roughly 1 inch per month. Okay. Repeat part C between 50 and 60. So now I have the average rate between 50 and 60. So this will be f of 60 minus f of 50 over 60 minus 50. I don't have these numbers. I go back and I plug them in. I plug in 50. I plug in 60. And I write 43.01 minus 40.92 divided by 10. So what did we get? Measurement unit. Very good. So what do we conclude?
The older you get, the slower.
Right.
Most growth occurs under the age of
Right. I agree. Of course. So if you want to graph the function, let's graph the function. What will be the domain? Before I graph this function, I go to y equals. What will be the domain of this function? Because I don't want to waste my time. Correct. Very good. So then in the viewing window, I'll say 0 for x, because there's no age of -5. X maximum, we were looking at least 60 months, so I'm going to put 60 months. with a scale of 10, y minimum, we're talking about the median height, it cannot be negative, right? But as we already discussed, the minimum value is 19, right? They are 19 inches long when they are born, right? So
45.
so the height. Okay, so if you want to put 45, we can put 45. However, definitely I have to show at least. Uh, yes, that's true because that's what we got at 60. Fine, perfect. Okay, with a scale of 15. And now I press graph. If I don't make these adjustments, I will not see anything. So here's my question. Between these 2 points, look at the rate of change. Quite steep. Between these 2 points, a little bit less steep. Between these 2 points, less steep. And obviously between 50 and 60, much less. So the average rate is 0.2 versus 1. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, anything else from these or from reading what we covered in class or from piecewise defined function? We looked at the difference. Yes, please.
Number 5.
Number 5. Very good. How do I show whether a function is symmetric? Not graphing it. What do I have to find? What are the 2 options, 2 relationships? If a function is odd, what has to happen? If a function is even, what has to happen? So what do we know about those 2? Right, but what is the equation? What is the equation?
For odd is negative
F of,
x. F out.
so f of negative x, we always, in both cases, that's what we determine, f of negative x. So if the function is odd, f of negative x equals,
F of x.
that's for even. Good. So now the function we are looking at is f of x equals 5x cubed minus 6x to the 5th. What do I have to determine? What is the key here? What do I need to calculate?
The x intercepts.
Next one.
Y.
Y equals x squared.
Slope.
There is no slope for a 5th degree function.
We're pulling at thin straws.
So if you look at this, that's all you have to do. Look at this and say, I know you have to calculate, and I will calculate it for
Of
you.
the negative x.
Okay. What do I have to calculate?
Negative x.
That's it. That's what I have to calculate. That's the key. In either one, I have to calculate f of negative x. If I don't calculate it, I will not know what it equals to. If it ends up equaling this, then I will conclude this. If it ends up equaling this, then I will conclude that. Okay, so forget about the target right now. I have to calculate f of negative x. Good. So how do I calculate f of negative x? What do I need to write? Yes?
Negative x.
In parentheses to the 3rd minus,
6.
yes?
Negative x.
That's it. Negative x to the third power.
-5
Yes, times 5, negative 5, x to the third.
plus 6x.
Yes, I agree, because negative x to the fifth is still negative x to the fifth, with minus in front, positive 6x to the fifth. So now I have 3 questions that I ask myself. And the answer is yes to only one. The other 2 have to be no. Does this equal f of x? If the answer is yes, I will say even. Does this equal negative f of x? If the answer is yes, I'll say odd. Or none of the above. I agree. So, is this the same thing with the function? Are these 2 quantities the same? No. So now I want to determine negative f of x. If I have f of x, what do I do to both sides to determine negative f of x? That's it. So negative 5x to the third plus 6x to the fifth. So now I'm comparing negative f of x, which is this, to what I got for f of negative x, which is this. If these 2 are completely identical, then I will say odd. If these 2 are not identical, I will cross this and I'll say none of the above. Can anyone tell us whether this expression, which is this, equals this expression, which is this, and this? Are they the same? Then I will say odd function. Why? Because I showed that f of negative x, oops, I'm sorry. I showed that f of negative x equals negative f of x. Any questions? Any questions?
What number was this?
This was number 5 on page 2.
We said it here. We take that to college.
So when you made the negative,
Oh, apps.
I multiplied this side by negative, this term by negative, and this term by negative. I had to multiply both sides of the function, the equation, but yes, my pleasure. Anything else?
Forward,
Yes. In 4 we have 3.
so that's our function.
Right.
Let's say that
Of course, I have to solve for y. How do I solve for y? Yes. But since it's y squared, I write y equals, careful,
x plus 3, or square root of 4x plus 3.
when I take square roots from both sides.
Plus or minus.
Right. If I don't write plus or minus, I mess up the problem. So the square root of 4x plus 3 or 3 plus 4x. So what do we conclude? Is this a function? It's not a function. And I will say this. For x equals 0, how many y values do we get? Yes, I get y equals positive the square root of 3, and I also get y equals negative the square root of 3. And if you remember with the bubbles, 0 goes to the square root of 3, and 0 goes to negative the square root of 3. So what do I conclude then? Does this equation represent a function or a relation? Relation. Not a function.
So for the test.
Yes.
You should explain your answer. So did we do the, you have to write it out, or do you want us to just show you that it's,
If you write that it's y equals plus or minus the square root of 4x plus 3, and you write this is not a function, it's 2 functions. One function is positive and the other one is negative. So the minus outside, so if you remember, this is the square root of 4x plus 3, but where is negative the square root of 4x plus 3? And by the vertical line test, it's not a function.
We just wrote because the vertical line test is.
That's fine,
No.
yes. That's fine. But the best thing is to take the square root. Any questions? Is there anything else? Say it again. Number 3 from this one. Okay, so let's look at number 3. What is the question here? Find the equation of a line passing through negative 2, 3. And perpendicular to the line 2x minus 5y equals 7. So here's the idea, right? This is the line that I do not have, the equation that I'm looking for. And I know 2 pieces of information. I know that it goes through this point. And I also know that it's perpendicular, 1, 2, 3, 4, 90-degree angles, perpendicular to 2x minus 5y equals 7. Is this the y-intercept? No, it's not 0, number. So it's not the y-intercept. So I have to think of y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, in which I have x1, which is negative 2, and y1, which is 3. But I don't have a very important piece of information, the slope. But is there any way I could determine the slope? So what should I do? Solve this equation for y. Why? Because I want to determine the slope. Yes, of this line. Let me call it M2. So I don't know it yet. So I have 2x minus 5y equals 7. I move what where?
2x minus 7.
Yes, negative 2x plus 7. And then I divide term by term by negative 5. This divided by negative 5 is y. Negative 2 divided by negative 5. Very good. Minus 7 over 5. So now I have M2. M2 is? Do you all agree with 2/5 for M2? Now, what I'm really interested in is M1. I don't care about M2. Negative? Very good, awesome. Multiplicative inverse of, or the reciprocal, negative reciprocal of the given, of the known one. That's all I need. Now slowly plug in everything. Y minus 3 equals negative 5/2. X, careful here, plus 2. I distribute negative 5/2 x. Now take this aside if it's not clear. Negative 5 over 2 times 2 over 1. Always simplify first. So minus 5, but I have to bring a positive 3. So what will be the equation of the line passing through negative 2, 3 and perpendicular to the given line? That's it. Any questions for me?